When we do factoring, we're talking about quadratics. Miss, I get behind. Let's go. Okay, and a quadratic looks like what? Ax squared plus and our goal is that it needs to equal 0. Alright, so ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. The idea of factoring is that we want to get it into those two parts, where we have one thing and one thing. That was our whole goal of factoring. And then it equals 0. But yesterday we learned when we have two parts that equal 0, how can I solve that? Yeah, separate them into one thing equals 0, whatever that first part is, or the other thing equals 0. And those are really our big steps here. Okay, is that first we have ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. We factor it, so it's two separate parts, or two parts multiplied together. And then we separate those into two separate equations and solve each part. Okay, you guys ready for the equation that's going to take up a whole page? It's going to happen. All right, some of you are going to write really small, and you're going to be like, Miss Morrell, mine only took up a third of the page, and I'm going to be like, cool. I just write really big. So, for some of you, it won't take up a whole page, but that's okay. All right, we have 7n squared plus 42n plus 11 equals negative 8n plus 4. All right, so how is this different than what we did yesterday? Because we didn't introduce any new steps in our overall review. Okay, yeah, there's two more terms here on this other side. What do we need it to equal? We always want it to equal 0. That's our goal, is to have that 0. If we get that 0, then we can solve it using our zero product property. So that's our goal, is we have to get 0 first. So I'm going to draw that line down, that equal sign, and we have to solve for 0. That's our new step today. If you want to make that nice and big, underline it, highlight it, you could color that in. That's the big new idea today, is that we have to solve for 0. And because of that, it just makes our practice a little longer, or our notes a little longer. And that's what makes it a whole page. It's really not that big of a deal. I was amping it up to make it sound really scary, I know. It's not that scary. Alright, so if I want to get 0, that means I want nothing on this side. I want none. So we need to get rid of both these parts. Doesn't matter which part we get rid of first. Do we want to do negative 8n or 4? Okay? Good, it's a negative 8n. So to undo a negative 8n, we would add 8n. Good. On the left side with 8n, am I going to put that underneath the 7n squared? 42n or 11? Good, 42n. Those like terms. Nice. So now we're left with a 7n squared still. Plus, and we can combine these n's, those like terms. So 42n and 8n together. How many n's would that be? 50n. Okay, plus 11. On this side, if it helps you to just lightly cross out those 8n's, some people, they like to show that that's getting, that we got rid of it. What do I have on the right side still? 4. Ishmael, you don't need to listen to music right now. Focus on this. Alright, have I solved for 0? Does it equal 0 yet? No, so I still need to get rid of everything on this side. I have a 4. I need to get rid of that 4. How do I get rid of a positive 4? Good, minus 4. And if I do it on one side, I have to do it on the other. And where on the other side would I do that? To the 7, the 50, or the 11? Good, the 11. Why? Good, constants. They're both by themselves. They have no variables. Amazing. Alright, so pull the 7n squared down. Plus 50n. We didn't do anything with those. Plus, what's 11 minus 4? Yep, 7. And 4 minus 4? 0. Hey, we solved for 0! Woohoo!
Are we done?
No. We're done with the first step. There's 3 steps. The first step was to get it to equal 0. What's our next step? Factor it. And then our last step is to solve it. Good. You guys are crushing this. All right, so as I factor it, what do I need to identify? What are our key parts? A, B, and C. I'm going to use my colors for that if you'd like to. So I have A is 7. What's my B? 50. And my C? 7. Alright, at this point, if you feel like you got the factoring part, this is last chapter. You got an A on that test, you got a B on that test, you got a C on that test, you got a D, you got an F, but you've learned and you've refocused. If you want to go ahead and work on this, go for it. This is something that you're like, yep, I got this. If this is something that you're still like, what? Be with us on this. Even if you got an A on that test, a B, a C, a D, and F, some of us still are a little like, what? Okay, if that's you, be with us. All right, what's my first step going to be? What should we do? So good. How are you? What's our first step? What are we going to multiply? A times C. You guys are like, oh my gosh, we know this, Miss Morrell. A times C. That was a really weird A. Pretend that looks like a normal A. Oh my gosh, Miss Morrell, you just made the most normal A ever. It's not normal, but that's okay. Just pretend. All right, what do we got for A? 7 times our C? 7. Anyone got that for us? 7 times 7? 49. I need you. Add up to which part? Good, our B, 50. So we take out our handy dandy yellow tan colored sheet, whatever color you want to call this. It's supposed to be yellow. I don't know, it's kind of yellow. Not yellow. Alright, our only options in 49 is 1 and 49 and 7 and 7. Yeah, 1 plus 49, right? It's 50. Cool. Not too hard on that one. Woo! We're getting there. What's our next step? The area model, good, or the box, however you want to call that. Break it up into 4 parts because it's a quadratic. Quadratic means 4, but really it's only 3. So it's trinomial. It's a little goofy. I agree. Alright, what do we got in that first box? Good, it's our A, 7n squared. What goes in that last box? Good, the C, which is 7. Now that 50 is the part that we need to break into 2 parts. And we did that already. What did we break 50 up into? What 2 numbers? 1 and 49. Doesn't matter which one you put where.
But you should put 1 in the bottom one because that's where I put it.
Just because I like you. Alright, so we got 49n in the top, 1n in the bottom. Alright, double check that you got all that information. It's a lot so far. Alright, let's take a look at 7 and 1. What's my greatest common factor of 7 and 1? Yeah, what's the only factor of 1? 1. So above that 7 and 1, I'm going to put a 1. But what else do they both have? An n. Now we can continue to factor using our factor chart, or we can think of multiplying. Those of you that think of multiplying generally do it a little bit faster, but it's not necessarily that one way is more right than the other. So if I look at 49 and 7. Good, 7. Do these both have an n? Nope, so just 7. Alright, and this one's kind of nice, because now as I look across, we have 7 and 49 again. And we already did that. What was 7 and 49? 7, but this time, they both have an n. And we already did 1 and 7. 1. Do they both have an n? Nope. Alright, so now we have our binomials. What goes in our first binomial? 7n plus 1. And I think that's what it was, yeah. And we have to remember at the beginning we said this whole thing was equal to 0 because we took time to make sure it was equal to 0. That's the big difference today is we have to take time to make sure it equals 0. If we take that time to make sure it equals 0, now we can do what we did yesterday, where we take those parts and we get to split them apart and solve. So this one's kind of fun because it's, I don't know if fun is the right word. Let me rephrase that. This one's a little silly because we get to start this problem by solving and we end the problem by solving. The middle part is that factoring. So So I'm going to break that apart. We have 7n plus 1 equals 0. And 1n plus 7 equals 0. I'm going to write that just as n plus 7 equals 0. 1n and n are the same thing. Alright, so if I start with that first one, 7n plus 1 equals 0. Subtract 1 first, both sides. 7n equals negative 1. And then to undo multiplying by 7, divide by 7. Can we do negative 1 divided by 7? Good, we just use a fraction because it ends up being a decimal. Negative 1 over 7. You just want to teach tomorrow? Alright, so if you want to write your answer, if you're happy with this answer, you just want to circle, you're like, I'm sick of this problem, I'm done. Go ahead and just circle. If you want to be nice and like neat and proper, we'd say n equals negative 1/7 or n equals negative 7. So again, if you want to be nice and proper, if you were going to write your 20-page paper on this one-page problem, you would write it out nice and neat like that. If you are sick of this problem and you're like, I'm done, go ahead and just circle, call it good. Alright, so today there is a quick check. It's 2 problems. The first part of the problem you're going to solve for 0. That is the goal, is to get 0 first. And then it's a lot of drag and drop.